on average, South Africans spend about 2,000 rand every month, the average South African, on prepaid electricity.
Is Eskom a threat or an ally?
We're not here to cannibalize Eskom and say...
And Beast? The Beast Bundle.
Beast is a great guy. I was at dinner yesterday and someone asked, why Beast Bundle? I was like, it just rolled off the tongue so nicely.
Yeah, no, it's... what is your view of marketing? Because we hear of instances whereby CEOs and CFOs say, marketing, what are you doing? You're just a cost center.
Yeah.
You spending money. You're not bringing in money. You know, what is the ROI? You know? Are you that kind of CEO?
Advertising is about creation nowadays, or if you want to stand out, even with influencer marketing, you have, CEOs who are influencers in their own right in order to drive.
Pat. It's Pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the brand. If it's enormous.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Pat on Brands podcast with me, Pat Mahlangu. Today, we have a very special guest. It took a long time, I must say, about 2 years in the making. Yeah. We've been chatting. Whenever I see you, I'm like, Vincent, you gotta come.
Okay. No, thank you so much for having me. It's taken a bit of time, but I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad to be hanging out with you and talking about the things that we both care about.
Absolutely. And I mean, before we get to, the business of the day.
Yeah.
For those that do not know you, who is Vincent Maposa?
That's an interesting question. So I'm Vincent.
What is the one thing that people in your office or your teams don't know about you?
that they don't know about me?
Yeah.
Let's think about that. I think
I'm sure they know you love golf.
I love golf. I've fallen in love with it for the second time. You know, when you take up something first time and you're like, I'm not too sure about it.
Yeah.
And the second time you're like, I actually love doing this thing and I enjoy it. There was a time when I couldn't afford it anymore. So I suppose, the love dies during that time.
Yeah.
I think I'm more introverted than my team thinks I am.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They think I'm always out there having conversations and being very extroverted. I'm very introverted. When I power down, I power down. And when I disappear, I disappear. And I just spend a lot of time reflecting on self and reflecting on many things without necessarily communicating about those reflections. So
interesting.
I suppose that's something that they wouldn't just know.
Yeah, because they see you on stages wearing suits and...
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. So it's weird because I think I used to be like a champion debater or whatever. And that was a response to being quiet.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, if there's a stage, then I will speak up.
Got you.
And if there's a platform and a forum and there's something important for me to express, then I will definitely do that. Uh-huh. But if there isn't, probably not.
Okay. So you were born and raised in Zimbabwe?
Born and raised in Bulawayo. I was born there. I went to school there and came to South Africa in 2009. I'm a Bulawayo boy.
That was the year I also came up to Joburg.
Okay. That's cool. So we have, you were coming from a lot closer, so I suppose.
Yeah, but you came to Johannesburg via Cape Town.
Via Cape Town, yeah.
What is happening in Cape Town?
I think I learned a lot in Cape Town. It was my first, call it, job experience in South Africa. And so the work experience I gained, I worked for some very interesting leaders that gave me an opportunity as a young 23-year-old who didn't know a lot about many things, and they gave me a lot of responsibility. And the environment suited that. It suited this, mentorship, tutelage thing that took place there. Mm-hmm. And I worked hard when I was in Cape Town. I don't remember having a weekend. And I was young. I was an intern initially, became a junior analyst.
So the mandate was clear when you left Bulawayo coming to South Africa that, hey, you have to.
Exactly, right. And so I worked very, very hard. I worked in research, industry research, and I sort of fell in love with energy then. And I dedicated a lot of time and effort to becoming an expert in that field. And not that I am one yet, but I wanted to know and I wanted to learn as much as I could about that. And just because I have a mathematical background, me being inquisitive about that translated to numbers and, being able to communicate strategy in words and strategy in numbers is what I spent my time doing. So Cape Town was a great environment for me to learn a lot of things from people that were more accomplished than me, but who also had the patience and the time to teach me many things. I always say my first manager was the best manager I ever had. And I still say this, and I still have a good relationship with him.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you're still in contact.
Still in contact with him, Cornelis van der Val. But the first report I ever wrote, he basically took a look at it and said, "This is rubbish."
That's who you call the best manager.
Yeah, he's like, "This is rubbish, but you have a lot of potential. Like you dedicated so much time to coming up with whatever this is.
Yeah,
and I watched you do it, and I think that you can improve." And and I improved, and I became one of the better analysts on his team as far as he's concerned. But that was a great thing to learn. So I then moved to Joburg to work for Deloitte. So I used to work at Frost & Sullivan. Then I moved to join Deloitte in a strategy consulting role. And even then, I was headhunted by a partner who had no business headhunting consultants. I met him at a conference. We had a great relationship as well. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, but he's a very, very good individual who enriched my work ethic based Cape Town experience with just like detailed knowledge, very, very detailed knowledge. And he was a very detail oriented guy, probably one of the best strategists I've ever met.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And now, fast forward, you're co-founder and CEO of Wetility. First, the idea. The first time, obviously, I came across the brand, the first time I was introduced to you, I'm like, how did you come up with this monster?
Yeah, look, I was fortunate. My first job was in energy research. That's what I did. That's what I spent my time doing. I was a consultant that worked in strategy and operations, focusing primarily on regulation and understanding how regulation works. But it was across Southern Africa and power systems and whatnot. And when I moved to Cummins, which is a power generation company, I worked in a Africa Middle East role when my focus was power generation, right? How do you deliver affordable power in parts of the world that either need a backup solution or a prime application diesel generator? And I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about manufacturing and product and how the interface between hardware and software delivers a customer experience. So when I started the business, the idea had been forming or brewing for quite some time.
So would you say you being a strategist, number one, and understanding data, you could somehow have foresight in terms of how the future will look like from an energy perspective?
Yeah, spot on, right? And that's a good way of looking at it. So, if you understand regulation, you understand electricity pricing, you understand how utilities work, you understand markets and where markets usually evolve towards.
Yeah.
You could see that South Africa had the right recipe for the market to start embracing alternative forms of energy.
Yeah.
And liberalization, I always view as sometimes consumers liberalize the market by, voting with their wallets. And you can already see that, consumers were saying, look, the market is ready for a radical change. But also technology-wise, the move to electric vehicles by, prominent
OEMs.
EV manufacturers and OEMs was leading to something, or was going to lead to something, which is lower cost batteries. And the issue with renewables was always, where do you store that excess power which you generated? So you could see that cost curve coming down quite dramatically. And at the same time, you could see less capital being allocated to coal or carbon emitting technologies. So I took a view that in a few years, it's going to get cheaper and cheaper. And the market or the segment of the market that's most likely to be underserved for the longest time is actually going to be residential and light commercial.
Sure.
And because, those consumers are restricted when it comes to choice because of how just spatially and geographically homes are located relative to the resources that they require.
Interesting. Then was it easy to start? Like, where did it begin to start?
It wasn't easy, right? So, I spoke to a lot of people. I was very transparent, and I was still at Cummins that this is my last job. My boss didn't like that, but I said, look,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And for a good 18 months, I was communicating my ideas internally while still...
Oh, so you were socializing the idea.
Yeah, I was socializing the idea. I raised money from friends who I worked with as well, who said, look, when you're ready to do what you're going to do, we will support you. We'll back you. We'll provide you with capital. Spent a lot of time chatting to my brother about brand. And why it was important was we had to build an aspirational brand well in advance of the product, because most people build product and then they, test product market fit. Then they then try and figure out what the brand behind the product is.
Also, you're very intentional from
very intentional about let's try and deliver that experience before we have our first customer by thinking about it and being able to represent it, whether visually, tone of voice, how we communicate. Then when the product, because the product is there, it's not like the hardware product is there, the software product will be developed. When the product lands, it's not landing where there is no brand to just propel it and take it forward. So I spent a lot of time with him. He's also a strategist and, was communicating that, and he was translating a lot of that into actionable things, into visual representations of what we were trying to do. I spent some time as well with my co-founders, Sandeep, Chifiwa, Ikena joined a bit later, but I spent time with them. Trying to figure out what role each of us would play if this was a thing that became real. And a lot of market research, and was very, very prepared for making that decision. So by the time I left my job and they joined me, we had a business model. We understood what we wanted to do. What we probably lacked was sufficient amount of capital to pursue that dream relentlessly. So in hindsight, if I think about the idea and the idea formation, one of the things I definitely would have done is just raised a lot more money from people that were willing to give me money, because I turned away some capital.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You were spoiled for choice.
It wasn't because I was spoiled for choice. It was because I thought, because you get to a point where you fully appreciate that even if you go and collect capital from as many friends and family, you will not have enough from them.
Got you.
So you think you've raised enough from them. And in hindsight, if I had raised just a bit more from them, maybe would have achieved many things a lot earlier than we eventually did. Because at some point, when the organization is delivering several hundred systems per month, just know you need institutional capital. You need like proper people backing you and proper institutions backing you. So, but in hindsight, we could have like stretched our runway when times were tough by just having more capital from.
Sure.
That. Yeah.
I want us to take a step back. The name Wetility.
Yeah.
How did it come about?
So utilities and that's basically it. So we just brought those two together and named it Wetility, and it's a representation of what we believe in.
When I first saw it, I used to say Wetility.
It's an ongoing debate in the business on whether we add a hyphen after the W and the E so that people pronounce it the right way. The brand guys, like, the fact that people get it wrong is actually good for your brand.
Yeah, because then it creates talkability and people ask questions and they debate about it, and until they meet you, then you clarify.
Right. There are many names or brands there whose names have been misspelled for a long time, and these things have become household names now, and and they have become what they've become. They've become nouns, right, and adjectives, and
very interesting. I mean, when my first job in marketing, I was a promoter, and one of the brands that I promoted was Huawei. and I had all sorts of
to this day,
Huawei.
Same with the car brand, right?
Yeah.
Some people call it Hyundai, some people call it Hyundai, and whatnot, and that has kept it going. So I suppose we don't mind.
As long as they buy it. As long as they buy it, we don't care how you...
What do they say? We don't care about the color of the cat as long as it catches mice, right?
Indeed.
Exactly.
So obviously, you say raising capital was one of the challenges, but I can imagine also, I mean, it's not an easy industry to get into from a regulatory perspective.
Yeah.
Was that something that you had to contend with?
Yeah, we had to contend with it, but as I said, I come from sort of a regulatory background as a strategist and as a consultant. So I understood the interface between regulation and what we were trying to do and the type of entity we were building and how you would then deal with regulation. Things like small-scale embedded generation regulations were quite murky at the time. So they existed in pockets. So we aligned with that as much as we could. I mean, when we started, you needed to apply to NERSA for any system 1 megawatt and above. And then that was changed by a pronouncement made by the president to increase that to 100 megawatts when we were going through the difficult load shedding period. But there's that understanding. I understood that. The thing about it as well is it matters who your partners are. In understanding regulation, but also being able to communicate how you feel about certain regulatory practices or certain regulations that don't foster competition. And competitive environment is good for everyone. An environment where innovation thrives is good for everyone. So I think we raised some capital from the Innovation Hub, which is a part of GGDA.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who were at the Innovation Hub had relationships with the likes of Eskom, probably former employees in some cases, NERSA and whatnot. So they were able to guide us when we were incubated there around how to navigate regulation and understand it fully, right? There are different ways to look at regulation. There's the economic side, the technical side, and. And most people really focus on economic regulation because that's where the rubber hits the road, right?
That's you.
But beyond that, like technical regulation is very, very important, right? You need to, compliance there in that space is quite important. So I think we did fairly well when we think about the journey we've embarked on, and we still do quite well.
Awesome stuff. But I can imagine, obviously, with the capital that you had, the idea, there was some sort of times where you felt uncertain, in terms of this thing is going to work or not.
I think that has never truly left us.
Even now.
You know why? Because you have to, and I think this is what great organizations should do and do well, is to always be worried about what you don't know. Right. And what you don't know sometimes is, what if the business grows a lot faster than what you anticipate it will, right? That's a classic case of you potentially running out of capital fairly quickly, right?
Oh, hectic.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean, someone could say, why would growth be a problem? Because every business exists to grow.
So what I've learned about growth and capital, especially for a capital-intensive business such as ours, is you grow at a certain rate, and it's steady, and everyone anticipates this. But it takes a lot of time to raise capital, and raising capital is one thing, right? Going through DD, getting a term sheet, going through the legals, getting a binding term sheet, and then you have a pay-away date and all that stuff. It takes quite a bit of time. So if you grow too quickly, sometimes you could end up in a sort of cash flow position that's quite uncomfortable. So we always have to think about that. It's great. We have great funding partners. I mean, on the private equity side, we have Metier, we have the likes of Jaltech, and some of it's all publicly known.
And MultiChoice
as well. They gave us interest-free debt when we started the business. We've always had a great relationship with them.
That's a good debt, eh?
It's good debt. It's good debt. Yeah, it really propelled us and helped us test the model and POC a lot of things. So yeah, we're always looking at ways to make sure we have enough and even more, even though at this point you can say, well, you have enough capital to keep going for quite some time.
Yeah.
But we always want to deliver the most optimal cost for the end consumer. So we care about our sources of capital, how much of it we have, where it comes from. But we also fully appreciate that it takes a bit of time for the check to land and for that money to actually be transferred to you so you can utilize it. So,
Got you.
So we're not naive about that.
The realities of how this money flows.
It's complicated. Yeah.
I mean, I was obviously attended your first event. And
that was also 2 years in the making because we spoke about it at some point and we weren't sure if we're going to do it, but we did it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, but you had some really interesting people there, speakers and just the industry as well. But you also made a big announcement, which we'll obviously talk to a bit later. But what I really want to touch on is I was just in awe, in terms of looking at your team. It's very diverse. You know, you got the young ones, you got the older ones, you got all, people from all sorts of backgrounds. How important it is for you as a CEO, to have a diverse team?
It's critically important. I always say this, and I say that the organization, as it grows, should be a reflection demographically at a minimum of the society we live in. At a minimum. Yeah. And so I'm quite happy when, for example, our CFO, who's responsible for people, says, look, 40%, or it's actually higher than that, 47% of our staff is young Black females.
Sure.
Under the age of 35. Then I'm like, okay, we've achieved something significant here. But
how big is the team now?
It's over 100, I think 120 thereabout. And you can see how that's very, very important. But diversity also promotes a heightened level of innovation because the different ideas and idea formation, or whether they then become executed, come from many, many places, right? When you say, water is an issue or water is not an issue, and someone says, I used to, carry a bucket on my head and whatnot, versus a person who has always had running water via tap.
Yeah.
But now, society is equalized. They both have running water from a tap. But when you talk about water scarcity, an individual who used to carry water in a bucket views it very differently to an individual who's always had running water.
Of course.
Right.
Who used to take a 5-minute shower.
Exactly.
Versus,
so they think about day zero and they're like, that's the worst outcome. And then someone else will be like, you talk about day zero. I know where to go and fetch the water. It's just 2 k's away. Right. And that's not a great thing. So,
and I'd use 5 liters to take a bath and you use 15, 20.
50. So having that diversity, that sort of diverse views on the same problem enriches the solution. The solution is better because more people with a different perspective on the problem are contributing to finding a solution. So the depth of the solution is just, it's immense, right? So if you just think about that as an outcome, then that makes me happy. It makes me happy that we've built a diverse team. And the result is we are allowed to come back every single day and do better because our ideas are stronger and we execute a lot better. And we make a lot of mistakes, but we learn from them fairly quickly as well. Because diversity also helps in that, right? Which is, you make a mistake and someone comes and says, these mistakes have been made before. Right?
Yeah.
Like, let's go again and let's do it differently this time. And that's super helpful.
Yeah, awesome stuff. I mean, it's interesting that at the start of our conversation, the brand, you actually brought up the brand element, which obviously, this is the Pat and Brands podcast. We can't let you go without asking critical questions about brand and marketing. I mean, you are a proper, I'll say, CEO, right? You're leading 120 plus people, and I'm sure you've got a marketing manager. And what is your view of marketing? Because we hear of instances whereby CEOs and CFOs say, marketing, what are you doing? You're just a cost center.
Yeah.
You spending money. You're not bringing in money. What is the ROI? Are you that kind of CEO?
Look, I have to ask those questions. But where I think the world has gone from a marketing standpoint. Let me not say marketing, let's call advertising. Then advertising is about creation nowadays, or if you want to stand out, you have to become a creator and a creator of interesting content. Creating content in order for you to sell a product is quite expensive. And a lot of people were like, no, well, influencer marketing has made advertising cheaper. And so on and so forth. Sure, a lot of people can create their own ads and whatnot, but these are trained professionals, because once you're classified an influencer, it means you have a process and you have a way of doing things, system, and that system works. And not a lot of people are able to do that.
100%.
So I spend a lot of time trying to understand the creative outputs or the creative process, and also appreciate that it's not cheap. It's not cheap to do that,
and to do it well.
And whether or not we've found the right path is
the jury's still out.
The jury is still out. However, I am very invested in supporting that element. Then the platforms through which we broadcast and transmit that information, you pay a fee, you get what you get. If you pay more, sometimes it's more further amplified. But if what's been created is not fantastic or doesn't resonate with the audience, then it means very little. So my ROI calculator is based on more things than just we spent money and therefore what's the outcome. It's we spent money on what? And if we spent money on something that is compelling and we delivered value, then that's great. But if we spent money on something that was never compelling in the first place, then why?
Then there's problems.
Then there are real problems, and we have to self-reflect, and we have to really think about what we do next. And that's I think that's the right lens for the world that we live in now. So there was a time when CEOs, would just send things to a department and say, marketing, make it work. And then you're also shocked that there's an ad like this. I have no idea that, and you're like, oh, we're doing well, I suppose. Now, even with influencer marketing, you have, CEOs who are influencers in their own right in order to drive their brand. If you've seen, for example, I think his name is Rui Morais, or the new CEO of Eskom. You can see a very deliberate effort to step out of, I'm a CA, I'm a CEO. Him, putting himself out there to really drive the brand and becoming an influencer in his own right. So you can see a lot of that, right?
We're also seeing, even from a marketing perspective, where CMOs also are becoming personalities and are becoming brands.
Exactly. And that's important. Typically, your brand as a CEO had to be about serious things, right? Or your brand as a CFO, even more serious things, right? You always rock up in a buttoned-up shirt. You're prim and proper. You say very measured things. But you're seeing a lot more, because that's what consumers want to believe in. They want to believe that
they want an authentic
experience. They want to believe that the people behind this brand, they're real people. They're people like you and I, and they live, and so I think that's where our marketing has gone and the thinking behind it. So we're quite passionate about investing in that.
And Beast? The Beast Bundle.
Beast is a great guy. I was at dinner yesterday and someone asked, why Beast Bundle? I was like, it just rolled off the tongue so nicely.
It's...
Great partner to have.
How long now?
This is now 2.5 years, I'd like to believe.
Sure.
And we're happy with our partnership with him.
Great stuff.
Great ambassador for our brand. We care a lot about his image. In how we portray that image, in how we do things. We also care a lot about resonance. Does it resonate with what we stand for and what we believe in? And I think it speaks for itself. More people know us for the Beast Bundle than they know us as Wetility, and we're happy with that.
Of course. And now, the one bill, you made a big announcement that next year in May there's going to be a new product offering. If you can just, unpack that for our viewers who are not at the event.
So one bill is...
And what are you solving for?
We're solving for something that's very, very important. And it's often understated that the hierarchy of needs has changed. At the very top of that, because we live in a connected world, an even more connected world, the very top of that, I truly believe is energy. And on average, South Africans spend about 2,000 rand every month, the average on prepaid electricity.
That's insane.
Across up to 11 million meters.
Sure.
And despite all the news around low collections and whatnot, I think more than 80% of people still pay for their electricity.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay,
you don't have electricity.
you have electricity.
Yeah.
So then think about that in the context of this is a customer who is paying for electricity somehow, somewhere. And then you then make a decision to not offer that customer credit because they owe on a bill somewhere, retail bill.
Yeah.
And you're not looking at that customer as a consumer of electricity, you're looking at them as a consumer of your product and it's adding cost. So we're saying, let's consolidate the bill. Let's talk about how much Pat spends every month and say to Pat, we believe we can provide you with the net saving, a guaranteed saving. The moment you allow us to take a look at how much you're spending and say, well, Pat, we believe you consume a lot of power during the day and I think you should get a solar system.
Yeah.
And if you get a solar system, whatever you're paying today will be X% cheaper.
Gotcha.
Without you having to do anything except allow our team to come to your house and install a solar system. And the transparency behind it is if we truly, genuinely believe that you will not save money, we'll tell you won't save. But if you say, well, I also live in an area that's prone to power outages because, cables get stolen or, we live in an area where whenever there's a storm, this happens or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable paying slightly more because I don't get a net guaranteed saving today. And I'm comfortable doing that. Then we'll say, well, let's help you manage that entire dynamic.
Yeah.
So this is the simple way of thinking about it. Behind that, there's a lot of AI. There's a lot of data that then supports how we control all the payments to make sure that you always have affordable and uninterrupted power. And as far as we can do that.
Interesting. I see many, I'll say, facets of your business that you're no longer just an energy provider or an energy business. There's a lot of tech that is involved. And also now there's borderline financial services here. Am I right in assuming that?
You're right. Someone said, are you becoming a fintech? Or we believe we've always been one, right? Because we've always provided our solar services or our solar systems via subscription, right? And subscription means there's a asset co behind that's backing you paying 100 Rand or 1,000 Rand for a system every month. That's something behind that. And that's what the fintech is about.
Sure.
But we have...
And also I can imagine with the data that you're going to be collecting as well.
Yeah. And what we've always said is the important thing for us is total cost of ownership of homes should be optimal. If you live in a home, you should be paying the best rate because someone is making sure you do. And that efficiency means that you get to use whatever saving you make for other things that matter to you. So, when we speak to our customers and they say things like, I'm saving X amount of money and I'm using it towards my child's education, that makes us feel good. Because we've lowered cost of owning your home and given you excess cash that allows you to do something that's very, very important to you. Because we look at the levels of indebtedness, we look at how well our economy is growing or not growing, the reform that's taking place, whether it's driven by policy or not driven by policy, and what it's leading to in the consumer space. And it worries us that, consumers are what they own or what they're able to own in future is not going to be a lot. So the more they save, the more they think about stretching every rand, then we have a role to play and we want to intervene and provide them with the simple thing that says, look, you shouldn't pay too much for your energy. You should pay at the right rate. And it should be available and you should use as much power as you need in order to live your life.
Wow, those are some very interesting insights. So in your view, but are we tracking right, from an adoption perspective,
I don't think we're tracking right. And part of the problem is what we're trying to solve for with One Bill. I don't think we're tracking well at all, because the estimate is anything between 1% to 3% of households in South Africa have a solar system or have access to power from a solar system.
Yeah.
Maybe if we look at the grid.
But that means there's plenty of potential.
There's plenty of potential, but also the potential is restricted by just consumer knowledge and the ability to think about this holistically and just say the important thing is a great experience, affordable power, and uninterrupted power. And if I can get that from somewhere, then why not?
Yeah.
So there are there's lots of misinformation as well.
Oh yeah.
The industry had what I would call a spike, not necessarily a boom, where a lot of things were installed that are not great, and then customers are now.
Was it during the load shedding period?
Yeah. Lots of companies benefited from that, but if you then look at how many of those systems are actually producing the benefit that they're supposed to be producing, are the settings right? Is the customer actually saving money? Is the battery still in a good condition? Is someone managing the cycles of that battery? So if you think about our AI mode, which came out before One Bill, it's really about that. It's about making sure that the system is optimized and we're preserving the health of the system so that it has the longevity that we anticipate it should have.
Yeah.
And we've always stuck to same tier one equipment inside the Wetility Pace cabinet. Long-term negotiations with our OEMs to support us through that warranty journey, and making sure that the customer always gets a high-quality product that delivers on the promise that we put out to them.
Sure. I mean, you made mention of the fact that there's a lot of misinformation out there, but who, not necessarily you as an entity, but from a counter perspective, that we can sort of benchmark against from a solar adoption?
Look, some of the Western countries have done quite well, but the game is also in Asia and Asia Pacific. Places like Australia, China itself, India, Pakistan are growing quite rapidly. And a lot of it is driven by, call it policy, and favorable policies that allow the end consumer to think about this and figure out what solution works for them. But it's also about looking at the grid as one, which is why One Bill is also important to us, is we have to look at the grid as one. Yeah. And in looking at it as one, I will understand that Pat probably the right candidate for an embedded generator because of where he's located, what his power consumption pattern is. Yeah. And maybe someone else isn't a candidate for an embedded generator. However, all of them should receive power, right? And if you then think about that as a policymaker, what does that drive you towards? It says, well, at a municipal level or at a district level, or even down to neighborhood, and if there are many embedded generators there, it means that if we have a power outage, those customers are not complaining about it, right? And we can actually partially exclude them from our megawatt count for that particular area because they're consuming power from their own source. So how do we make them more resilient and reserve our capacity for areas that are highly energy intensive or that can benefit from this power? So there's this thing that's commonly said, which is the suppressed demand for electricity is directly related to how well the economy is growing. A 1 to 2% increase in the GDP growth rate could lead to power outages returning because the economy won't be able to. It's commonly said by many energy experts. Yeah. So our system is still quite fragile. Our grid is still quite fragile. And with liberalization and the way it's likely to pan out, pricing is also there's going to be quite a bit of price discovery. So, countries like the UK or, the UK went through that. The United States has gone through that from net metering to net billing now, the removal of government-supported subsidies in certain states to ones that are now more complicated. And, instead of just solar, now it's solar and batteries and the importance of that. So, I mean, there are areas where you can just take a look and say, this is best practice and this is likely where South Africa is going.
Interesting. Maybe a bit of a controversial one here.
Yeah.
Is Eskom a threat or an ally?
We think of them as a part of the solution, a significant part of the solution. We're not here to cannibalize Eskom and say, we managed to defeat the grid.
Got you.
What we're simply saying is the consumer on a needs basis is going to do something. And
fair.
Yeah. Either the consumer is saying, I live in an area where power outages are rampant and I don't see the power utility being able to solve for this sustainably, or how much I pay for electricity is not going to be sustainable going into the future.
Yeah.
And we're saying, we're here to support that. But also in doing that, we want one grid, which means we all have a role to play in that system. So when they place requirements on us to comply from a small scale embedded generator perspective, we comply because it's important. If the customer is saying they want to go off grid, in most cases we say might not work out for you because it will cost you a lot of money and it might not be the most optimal way of balancing everything out. So perhaps that's not the solution for you. So we are hybrid first before we then. But then there's certain circumstances where the consumer lives in a very remote or rural part of South Africa where connection or the interconnection between them, the transformer, where they are, is disrupted for a variety of reasons. And the service level is, low. Someone said the closest Eskom office is 150 kilometers away from here. And whenever there's a gust of wind, we have a power outage. And it takes them at least 48 hours to come and repair, which is the reality. It is the reality.
Indeed.
And there's a way to solve that in unison where we're saying, let's handle that customer for all of us. And you focus on what you can focus on. And that, creates employment opportunities, creates a more inclusive grid, because inclusivity is important to that extent, where you want it to be more inclusive.
So from what I'm gathering from you is that, so the future of energy is hybrid.
Future of energy is hybrid, 100%. Future of energy as well involves a very important thing, which is electric vehicles. They're going to become an even more important part of our daily lives.
Are you going to have Wetility charging stations?
We don't know.
Okay.
We'll have to wait for our next product day, right? I also rock up at these product days and I'm surprised. I'm like, oh, we're doing that? So we don't know, but they're going to be a significant part of the ecosystem. I think Eskom has announced a partnership with BYD to support the rollout of electric vehicle charging stations.
That's an interesting one, I must say, from a reputation perspective.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
The grid needs to be managed differently when that becomes the case.
I can just imagine you driving a BYD and you have load shedding. Oh my goodness!
Exactly. So that's worth really thinking about. The feedstock for power that's delivered to the grid has changed. It's changing. We used to be a 100% coal powered, if not higher than that. Sorry, not higher than that, but just 96 or so %. I think it's come down to about 90% now.
Yeah.
If not less than 90%. That's going to change. Gas to power is going to be an even bigger one as well. Because like coal, we've had our experience with building Medupi and Kusile. I don't know if you've seen what's in the press around the cost overruns and how long it took. And
I mean, can I tell you something interesting with the Medupi power station? When I was doing my third year, business management, and we're talking about, project management, rather.
Yeah.
And that was in 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
It was a case study for how not to do a project.
Yeah.
Over budget, over time.
Yeah.
And somehow there's still lots of amount of money that was being poured into that project.
Yeah.
And yet it wasn't.
And that's what happens when you've gone for a long time without building large capital projects, then you build large capital projects again. Mistakes are bound to happen.
Interesting.
And it's important that going forward now, we don't take a break. So we have to be very consistent about our capital projects as a country.
Interesting.
Right? Because the moment you stop, then some of this infrastructure that already exists becomes derelict.
Yeah.
And I always think of, same with business or whatever, it's like a muscle. If you don't train it, right, it just...
But you still have some muscle memory.
Yeah, look, it's muscle memory from being a champion fighter 20 years ago is very different from the person who says, look, I wake up every day and I run.
Yeah.
And my legs are in perfect condition. So I think we lost a bit of that, especially when we neglected building more and more power stations at a time when the economy was growing. And this is, in the 2000s and early 2010s when the economy was pumping, and it's a missed opportunity.
What keeps you up at night?
Customers.
Yeah.
Worrying about whether they're saving, whether they're seeing the savings. I worry about that a lot. I worry about customers and their experience. I worry about what it means for my own team if customers want to experience things differently, and are they up to it all the time? Because you can get into this continuous cycle of building a lot of things, and sometimes customers really don't care.
Indeed.
So I worry about customers. I worry about customer experience a lot, and it matters to me. It matters that our customers are served well, but it matters that the experience is first in class, well curated and well thought out, because that's what drives a business. And if you just take your eye off it for too long, it's problematic. It doesn't mean that you always have to be tinkering, but you have to be thinking about it and thinking about it consistently. And now that we have a lot of data, both as a society, but as a company, you're able to make smart decisions and informed decisions. But in addition to that, some of those decisions, like no amount of data will lead you to making those decisions. Yeah. And being able to trust your gut. So I worry about, when we don't have data, will we trust our gut enough?
As a, for lack of a better phrase, you're a data man. You are an insights research guy. And in the absence of that, what do you do?
You have to follow your gut. Like your instinct becomes important. A lot of businesses are started on a whim, right? And we then go and find the data to support the whim. Not a lot of businesses started with data, and then the whims come after that. Some person could be walking here, and then they say, you know what? I think people should cycle more. Right? Then they're like, okay, what are the benefits? So people cycle more, they get healthier, it's better for the environment, and then next day we see a cycle or bicycle vending machine outside that says if you cycle from here to Sandton City, you can drop the bicycle off, and it'll cost you less than an Uber. It could be a whim, right? Because maybe everyone has a car. And other things. But then you start looking at the data.
There's no cycling lanes.
There's no cycling lanes, and and then the data then points you towards something. And if the data says go this way, or if you say, well, the data says I should go this way, the data says I should just abandon this is foolish. Then you probably don't. But think about it. Suppose the data says all the things that you require to do that are in place.
Got you.
The only thing that's missing is someone who's actually saying, look, I'll take this on. I'm going to be an advocate for people cycling more. Then you go. So sometimes you don't have the data, or if the whim is a weak one. And as a founder, it's the thing I was watching something on YouTube, and then I ended up watching this video of Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
He says one of the advice he got from one of his mentors who became an employee on his team, I forget the guy's name, was that you should also be very careful as a founder about when you communicate those ideas. So sometimes timing. Sometimes you are thinking about something and you think it's going to be important. But if you just blurt it out, then the organization could, so I think it was about the rate at which you produce those ideas needs to be steady so that the organization can take them, can embrace them and build something from that. And I found that to be quite powerful because there's no shortage. Founders and CEOs have no shortage of ideas. They have no shortage of things that they want to do and want to build. But sometimes the rate at which they deliver those things needs to be managed quite carefully. And then you build meaningful things.
I've always heard of the phrase that says you can make data do what you want it to do.
Yeah.
Is it true?
Yeah, you can definitely make data do what you want it to do. There are many biases that you know about about data and how you can, the data can have certain biases or certain things about it that are not, they're showing you what you want to see, or you can make it do a certain thing so you can support a narrative. Right? And hypothesis testing is really about that, which is, this is the data. Can we test a hypothesis? And if we're confident that, this hypothesis is true, then perhaps we then go and do something. But it's never been an exact science. And that's what data has always been about. In the absence of it, we are less informed. With it, we should be more informed. So, you can, lots of data can be manipulated. And then there's also noise that comes with data. The more of it we collect, the more noisy it can also become.
Then you suffer from analysis paralysis.
Absolutely. Right. And how meaningful is it? So, and we've gone down this path quite deliberately as people in general, right? If you think about you ran the Comrades, right?
Yeah.
You focused on a few data points, but just the apps you were using.
I just went on a whim.
You went on a whim and you're like, I think I can run this thing.
Can I tell you something funny? So my first ever race was the tough one.
The
City Lodge tough one.
I haven't heard of this one, but
yeah. So it's by Randback RAC.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, it was a Friday. He said to me, "I'm doing this race on Sunday. It's 32 kilometers. Do you want to come through?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Then off we went, we registered, and boom.
You just ran.
And I did 32 kilometers. I was young and naive.
You see, and that's an example of it, right? That was a whim.
Yeah.
But after that, you started getting into the data, right?
No, absolutely. Now,
how well did I run? What was my average heart rate? Sorry.
Yeah. And what am I eating?
Yeah.
When do I eat?
Then you're now getting into VO2 max and so many other things.
Yeah.
But as you put it, it was like you felt like you could run 32K. So you felt like, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
Then you now start really looking at the data and mining it.
And also the data is saying that Africa is the youngest continent in the world. And by 2030, 40% of the global youth population will be here. But also at the same time, we've got many challenges.
Yeah.
As a young CEO yourself, what have you got to say? How can Africa really get itself out of the many challenges it faces?
Yeah, look, without being...
And how do we get more young people economically active?
Without being the absolute idealist, but by saying something which is idealistic, and a lot of people before me and people after me will believe this and will say this, that Africa needs to connect more, and we need to trade within its borders. As looking at Africa as a whole and within its borders, we need to trade more with each other. But in trading, it's not just about trading goods and services. We need to trade ideas on how to move it forward. So Africa has a weird thing about it where it's separated into its many parts, and a pocket of excellence here does not translate into a pocket of excellence in its neighbor. And that's a problematic thing. We have the scale as a consolidated continent. Isolated as individual countries, provinces, whatever, not so much.
Indeed.
And a thing that probably matters to me and matters to a lot of business people is the right people should be thinking about how to integrate Africa, but also have the will and the backbone to actually integrate it from a trade perspective and from a variety of other places. Then that youth dividend kicks in automatically because you've integrated, you've created systems, you've created infrastructure, and all you need is the youth to show up and contribute. So now think about it. You have this growing youthful population and there's nothing waiting for them. There's nothing. There's no bus to take them from where they are to where they need to be. There's no school that's teaching them what they need to learn in order for them to be productive for the next 60 odd years of their life.
Sure.
There's no healthcare or healthcare facilities that's going to make them healthier as they continue to grow. So you think about those problems and how if we solve them, and these are like very structural issues, right? The basic level of education, right? Are we satisfied that the basic level of education is such that the young child who's a couple of years old now, when they become what is classified as an employed person, has learned the best skills for them to have a fulfilling life? That's like, and those are like tough questions.
Indeed.
That we need to be asking ourselves before, that becomes the reality. It's already the reality, right? It's still it's the youngest continent in the world, but it's not being harnessed. It's hardly being harnessed. Think about South Africa's own unemployment rate. Just in total number, then you split it by the youth unemployment rate, which is worse than the total number. Think about the number of young people that are stewing and just sitting and have no way of directing their energy and effort because there's no structure. There's nothing there. So I saw something interesting as well this week about all these programs that purport to promote youth employment and how some of them are just like loose mitigations that don't lead to anything sustainable. So it was like it was saying we see it happening, but there's a criticism that says, but is it sustainable to just say, we have something that we're trying to do for the youth and trying to get them into jobs without a plan for beyond that? We have a lot of interns, right? In our business. And I've made it my point to be like, we need to think about what happens after the 12 months today. And we need to be very honest about whether we have a plan for this individual or not. And if the plan works out, great for everyone. If the individual thinks otherwise, it's unfortunate. If we think otherwise, that's even more unfortunate. So are we creating meaningful opportunities that are lasting? As opposed to just saying, for 12 months, I'll have a rotating door or bring in interns.
Revolver. It's interesting you say that. And I think it also alludes to a conversation I had earlier this week with someone from corporate. She works for like a very big bank. And every year they talk about, having like 3,000 interns, and when you look at the absorption rate of those young people, it's nothing to write home about. And what you end up also having is that, like, even in our small agency, you look at, when you get applicants and look at their CVs, it's intern. So now you have a situation where you have perpetual interns.
Getting paid paltry amounts.
The same amount, the same thing also can be said around entrepreneurship, where you have these ESE programs, accelerators,
incubators.
and you have people who have now become specialists in incubations.
Yeah.
They'll jump from one incubation to another and another, but they never get to scale. They never get to grow.
Yeah, one of my co-founders, we had a conversation very similar where he was talking about a lot of people who approach him now to say, hey, I want to start a business and, this is what I'm thinking about and can you give me advice?
Yeah.
And he says he turns a lot of them away because he asks them, so who's going to sell this thing that you say you want to do? Who's going to sell it?
Yeah.
And if the person can't convince them that they are going to sell whatever it is that they believe is an entrepreneur, then he turns them away.
Sure.
So think about all the entrepreneurs out there, who have not sold anything. And they have been entrepreneurs for a long time. If it's not, sort of physics-based or biotech or whatever, where you have large amounts of money and the expectation is going to take you 20, 30 years
to get it right.
Get it right.
Yeah.
And it's then there's a problem with that. Then as you put it, right, with internships, right, there are like lots of very, very talented people who go through several internships and are unable to find meaningful work. I went through vetting process myself, and I looked at some of these CVs. I looked at the transcripts. I looked at the grades.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed. And I said, but I still want to meet the candidate because I want to understand what it is. And I took a very different perspective, which is the most unpolished candidates who have good grades should be as good as the polished candidates who don't have good grades. Because if you think about how structurally you can be excluded, is you show up to an interview and on the day you don't sound like the kind of person who's going to work for an organization because of your background and where you come from.
Yeah.
And you're excluded. But if you just like really take a look at the individual, you're like, this is a solid, sharp individual. So, and those things happen. And then you then end up with people who, because I believe that probably 5 years post the qualification that allows you to get a job. If you don't have a job in those 5 years, and this is pre-proliferation of AI.
Yeah.
By the time you're ready for by the time you get a job, 5 years post you graduating, the next best candidate is 10 times better than you. And the only thing that should separate you, is work experience. And you have none. You have none, right? You spent the last 5 years.
By that time you're 30 as well.
Yeah. Just think about what interns can do now. I mean, I have like interns, right?
Yeah.
And I gave them data sets and they were like, in an hour or two, in Python, here it is.
Yeah.
What do you want to see? What do you want to tell us? And I think about I can do it, right? But it will take me a lot longer than them. So they're better. So if you go for 5 years, post-graduating, you don't have a job, then you go and you're supposed to be competitive with an individual who is, at that point, 20, 22 years old, who's learned the latest thing in varsity. They're there and they say, let's go. That individual is better. So how to perhaps solve this situation is to say, mistakes were made. Certain people are now where they are. Can we find meaningful work for them? It's important to say meaningful. The young ones who are coming out of university, we have to give them a shot. The ones that are coming out of colleges, the ones that are coming out of the TVETs, get them working. Don't lose sight of those ones. Because professionally, I think they're better. I think they have better skills.
Yeah.
Make sure that you absorb them as quickly as possible. Then while you're doing that, address the issues that you have created over the last number of years where you have people who were graduated 10, 15 years ago who have never held a meaningful position in any business at all. And figure out what you then do. What's the retraining, the retooling, the reskilling of those individuals? Then you absorb them as well.
But now with AI, as a business, I'm thinking, do I bring in a homebody or do I employ an agent that's going to work 24/7?
Look, it's going to need operators. I mean, what's Sam Altman's thing that he said about it is the fear is that when people now delegate things that they're supposed to do to the AI.
But I mean, that's the problem he created.
It's true, right? But just think about it needs people. It needs people that train those AIs. It needs a lot of skill that I believe exists in the market.
Yeah.
And we have to embrace that reality
Sure.
and accept that that's where the world has gone. It's like the Industrial Revolution and what it led to. And you know this, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of unhappiness, right?
Of course.
But
Yeah.
look at where we are now.
When the tractor was,
Yeah.
invented, people were like, oh no, who's going to work the farms?
This is the end of us, right?
Yeah.
And the ox-drawn plow was no longer a thing.
Yeah.
And the loom and, weaving stuff became. So we have to think about those things in the context of.
But now we have mechanics that fix tractors.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yo, we ran out of time.
Okay.
An hour in.
Thanks, Pat.
And unfortunately, we have to cut it here.
Okay.
We can't even do the quiz,
Okay.
because of time.
Because of time.
Yeah.
Great.
But thank you so much for being
Thanks, Pat. This was such a great conversation. Sorry if I end up speaking too much.
No, we love those who speak too much, because otherwise, what are we doing? But as a parting shot, to other entrepreneurs, other CEOs, like, if any, what challenge do you have for them?
I think build teams, build winning teams, build a team you can be proud of, mentor people, allow them to show up as the best version of themselves, to do even better than you can ever imagine. If you do that, then everything will fall into place. And it comes at the right time, right? So it's not that you can, when you're still early stage trying to do stuff, you don't have to think about those things just then or actually act on them. But think about them and think about the kind of team or the type of team you want to build, because it matters. It matters, especially as you scale, that you have a solid team that's behind the vision, that's behind the mission, and is delivering better than you were yesterday, and have a future fit focus on what they're going to deliver in the future. If you build that, you have gold. You have something that's very difficult to replace. And I think that's something I would definitely say to a lot of CEOs.
On that note, Ivan fan, as they say. Thank you so much for making the time, and from me, Pat Mahlangu, Ngiti Inahailale.
Pat. It's Pat on Brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the brand. If it's enormous.